Most people think the Rivers State crisis is over. The peace deal was signed, Fubara is back in office, Wike shook hands, and Tinubu gave his blessing. The war is finished. But here is what nobody is telling you. Rivers State is currently running without a proper 2026 budget. We are in July 2026, 7 months into the year, and the state government has no legally passed appropriation for this fiscal year. What that means for you directly is this. Every road project in Rivers State that should have started this year is on hold. Every teacher who was supposed to be hired this year is waiting. Every hospital that was supposed to receive equipment is empty. Every youth employment program that was promised is frozen. Because without a budget, there is no legal authority to spend public money. And without legal authority to spend, governance stops. Not slows down, stops. Now ask yourself, who benefits from Rivers State being paralyzed for 7 months while its governor sits in government house with no money he can legally deploy? The answer to that question is what this video is about. Because the budget crisis in Rivers State is not an accident. It is not bureaucratic delay. It is not Fubara's incompetence. It is a carefully constructed trap. And today, Pulse Nigeria HQ is going to show you exactly how it was built, who built it, and whether Fubara can escape it before 2027. Stay with me. If you are new to Pulse Nigeria HQ, this channel exists to give you the political analysis that mainstream media will not touch. Subscribe now and stay with me because this video connects dots that even people inside Rivers State have not fully joined together yet. How Rivers State got to this point. To understand the budget trap, you need the complete timeline because this did not happen overnight. It was built step by step over 3 years. When Fubara took office in May 2023, he inherited a state that Wike had governed for 8 years. Wike knew where every naira was. He knew every contractor, he knew every commissioner, he knew every local government chairman. He left office, but he did not leave power. By October 2023, 25 members of the Rivers State House of Assembly, all loyal to Wike, had initiated impeachment proceedings against Fubara. The assembly complex was demolished following a fire. The political war was fully open. In March 2025, President Tinubu declared a state of emergency in Rivers State under Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution. Fubara was suspended, his deputy, Professor Ngozio Tinadu, was suspended, the entire elected assembly was suspended, retired Vice Admiral Ibok Eteibas was appointed sole administrator. Here is the financial detail that most people missed during the emergency period. In June 2025, President Tinubu presented a 1.48 trillion naira budget for Rivers State to the National Assembly. The federal lawmakers passed it. Ibas received it and governed the state on the basis of that emergency budget for 6 months. In September 2025, emergency rule ended. Fubara returned to government house. But here's the problem nobody explained clearly at the time. The budget that was passed during the emergency was a federal budget for a state under emergency administration. When Fubara came back, legal experts immediately flagged the question of whether that budget remained valid under a restored civilian governor or whether a new appropriation was needed. Fubara's position was that the emergency budget covered the state through the end of 2025 and into 2026. His opponents, led by Wike's allies and the Amaewhule-led assembly, argued that any spending without a new appropriation passed by the elected assembly was illegal. On January 2, 2026, Fubara's Executive Council approved a 1.85 trillion naira budget for 2026. They called it the Budget of Resilience for Growth and Development. The document was ready. It was internally approved. On January 8, 2026, the Rivers State House of Assembly initiated its third impeachment attempt against Fubara. In the same plenary session, the Assembly passed a resolution banning Fubara from presenting the 2026 budget to them until the impeachment investigation was concluded. A Wike ally publicly declared on camera, There is no appropriated budget for 2026 in Rivers State, and any spending of public funds without Assembly approval is illegal. That is the trap. Fubara had a budget ready to present. The Assembly refused to receive it. Then the Assembly accused him of not presenting the budget. It is a circular trap. He cannot present the budget because they banned him from presenting it, and they are accusing him of not presenting the budget. The February 2026 peace deal temporarily suspended the impeachment. The Assembly adjourned, and then it simply did not reconvene. For 3 months, from February to late June 2026, the Rivers State House of Assembly held no plenary session at all. No sitting, no legislation, no budget. 7 months into 2026, Rivers State had no passed budget. And that is the situation we are recording this video in today. What the Constitution says and why it matters to you. Let us talk about the law, because this is the part that most people glaze over, but it is the part that actually explains everything. Section 120 of the 1999 Constitution provides that all revenues or other monies raised or received by a state government shall be paid into and form one consolidated revenue fund for the state. Section 121 requires that the governor present an appropriation bill to the State House of Assembly for each financial year. No money can be withdrawn from the Consolidated Revenue Fund except under a valid appropriation law passed by the Assembly. What this means in plain language is that a governor cannot legally spend public money without Assembly approval. Every contract, every salary payment above a certain threshold, every project, everything requires a passed budget as its legal foundation. The detail that changes everything. Here is the constitutional detail that most people covering this story have completely missed. The Rivers State Fiscal Responsibility Law, Section 10, Paragraph 1, Subparagraph B, requires the governor to lay the medium-term expenditure framework before the Assembly in September, 4 months before the start of the following financial year. That MTEF is the legal foundation document for the budget. Without it, the budget cannot be formally presented. Fubara could not present the MTEF in September 2025 because the Assembly was not sitting. The Assembly was not sitting because of the political crisis. The political crisis had paralyzed the very legal process that would allow the governor to present a budget, and then his opponents used the absence of a budget as an impeachment allegation against him. That is not a governance failure. That is a designed trap. You create the conditions that prevent the governor from complying with the law, then you use his inability to comply as evidence that he is unfit to govern. Now let us talk about where things stand right now as of this recording. On June 25, 2026, Fubara finally transmitted the 2026 to 2028 medium-term expenditure framework to the Assembly. The Assembly received it on the same day. The very next day, June 26th, the Assembly approved it in less than 24 hours. Speaker Amaewhule publicly criticized Fubara for submitting it 9 months late. He said the law required submission in September 2025. He said the year is already half gone. He called the delay unacceptable while simultaneously approving the document in less than 1 day. What Amaewhule did not say is that the Assembly itself failed to sit for 3 consecutive months between February and June 2026. He did not say that the Assembly banned Fubara from presenting the budget in January. He presented the delay as Fubara's failure while conveniently omitting the Assembly's role in engineering that failure. The approval of the MTEF now paves the way for Fubara to present the actual 2026 Appropriation Bill to the Assembly. Sources reported to the Nation newspaper that Fubara was ready to present the budget as early as the week beginning June 30. That presentation, when it happens, will be the moment the trap either closes or opens. Because Wike's allies in the Assembly now have a choice. They can pass the budget, which gives Fubara the legal authority to govern and build the kind of visible results that help him win a second term in 2027, or they can delay it, amend it beyond recognition, or find new reasons to block it, which continues to paralyze governance and weaken Fubara's position heading into the election. Watch which choice they make. It will tell you everything about what Wike's real plan is for Rivers State before 2027. Who controls Rivers State's money right now? Now, let us follow the money. because understanding who controls Rivers State finances right now is the key to understanding everything else in this story. Rivers State is one of the wealthiest states in Nigeria. Its internally generated revenue from oil, gas, and business activity places it among the top 2 or 3 states in the country by revenue. The Federation account allocations it receives from the federal government every month are substantial. This is not a poor state. It is an extremely rich state being deliberately prevented from spending its own money on its own people. During the 6 months of emergency rule, all financial decisions for Rivers State were made by Vice Admiral Ibas as sole administrator. The 1.48 trillion naira budget was approved by the National Assembly in June 2025. That budget was designed, presented, and managed entirely outside Fubara's control during a period when he was legally suspended from office. When Fubara returned in September 2025, he returned to a state where the financial year was already 9 months old, where a budget he did not write had already determined spending priorities for 3 quarters of the year, and where contractors appointed during the emergency period were already executing projects he had no hand in selecting. Wike's allies then attempted to push a supplementary budget through the Assembly in late 2025. Business Hallmark newspaper reported that associates of Wike tried to introduce a supplementary appropriation bill through Assembly members loyal to them. Fubara blocked it. His position was that the emergency budget was sufficient for the remainder of 2025 and that he would not accept a supplementary budget that he had no control over. Wike reportedly convened a closed-door meeting at the Port Harcourt residence of Ferdinand Anabraba, a political elder, after Fubara had rejected the supplementary budget. Sources at that meeting said Wike told everyone present that he was ready for a full-scale political battle with his successor. This was in late 2025. The peace deal that everyone celebrated in February 2026 came after that meeting, which means the peace deal was signed while Wike was privately preparing for war. The peace deal was never about peace. Here is what nobody in Nigerian political media has said directly enough. The February 2026 peace deal did not resolve the Rivers State crisis. It reset it. Fubara dissolved his cabinet. He removed his allies from key positions. He conceded appointments that Wike's camp had been demanding. He accepted conditions that significantly weakened his own political machine. And in exchange for all of that, what did Fubara get? The Assembly agreed to stop the impeachment. They agreed to resume sitting. They agreed to receive his budget documents. But Wike himself, as recently as May 2026, told journalists publicly, "We are not working with Fubara. I have not endorsed him for 2027. What exactly did Fubara concede all of that for? The answer is that Fubara conceded political equity in exchange for the ability to continue governing. He agreed to be weaker so he could remain in office. And the moment he began reasserting himself, registering as APC number 001, endorsing Assembly candidates, hosting federal officials, the Assembly stopped sitting again. The message was clear. You can govern as long as you govern on our terms. Now, I want you to drop a comment right now and tell me honestly, do you think the budget paralysis in Rivers State is Fubara's fault, Wike's fault, or the system itself? I want to hear your view before we get to the section that most people covering this story have completely avoided. How the budget war is hurting real people. Let us be very specific about what a 7-month budget paralysis actually costs ordinary Rivers people. Because this story is not about Fubara and Wike, it is about 7 million people who wake up every morning in a state that has the money to serve them but has been politically prevented from doing so. Roads. The Rivers State road network is one of the worst in the South-South for a state of its wealth. Projects that were supposed to begin in January 2026 have not started because there is no past appropriation authorizing the expenditure. Contractors cannot be mobilized. Equipment cannot be procured. Communities that were promised connectivity are still waiting. Schools. The Assembly Speaker himself said it publicly, and I want you to note this because it is significant. Amaewhule said during the January 2026 impeachment session, "Our schools are not functioning the way they should, our youths are not being employed, our roads are bad, our hospitals are not fully functional." He said this as a justification for removing Fubara. He did not mention that the Assembly's own refusal to pass a budget was one of the primary reasons those conditions existed. Healthcare. Rivers State University Teaching Hospital and other major health facilities in the state depend on state budget allocations for drugs, equipment, and personnel. A paralyzed budget means delayed procurement. Delayed procurement means drugs that run out and are not replaced, patients who arrive at government hospitals and are turned away or asked to buy their own materials at private pharmacies. Youth employment. Fubara's administration had announced several employment and skills programs designed to address the unemployment crisis among Rivers State youth. Without a passed budget, the legal authority to disburse funds for those programs does not exist. The programs were announced. The funds theoretically exist, but the political paralysis has prevented the money from reaching the young people it was supposed to serve. This is the real cost of the Fubara-Wike fight. Not the drama on television, not the press conferences, not the court filings. It is the teacher who was not hired, the road that was not fixed, the drug that was not purchased, the young person who is still unemployed. The number nobody is saying. Here is the specific financial figure that puts this in context. Rivers State's budget for 2026 was approved internally by Fubara's Executive Council at 1.85 trillion naira. That is the budget of resilience for growth and development. 1.85 trillion naira sitting ready to be deployed for 7 months, frozen by a political calculation. For comparison, the entire federal budget for education in Nigeria for 2025 was approximately 1.7 trillion naira. Rivers State's undeployed 2026 budget is larger than Nigeria's entire federal education budget. That is how much money has been sitting idle while politicians fight over who controls the state. And the people paying the price for that frozen money are not Fubara and Wike. They are the 7 million Rivers State residents who have roads that need fixing, schools that need funding, hospitals that need drugs, and a government that has been too busy fighting itself to serve them. What Wike is really building before 2027. Now, let us talk about the endgame, because everything that has happened in Rivers State over the last 3 years makes perfect sense when you understand what the prize is and who is positioned to claim it. Wike has said publicly that he will reveal his preferred candidate for the 2027 Rivers State governorship at the appropriate time. He has said he is not working with Fubara. He has said that what he described as a leadership mistake in Rivers State will be corrected in 2027. So let us count what Wike currently controls in Rivers State heading into that 2027 election. He controls 21 of 23 local government council chairmen elected in August 2025. He controls the majority of the Rivers State House of Assembly through Amaewhule and the Wike Laurel Bloc. He has allies in key federal appointments in the state. He has ongoing federal project execution in Rivers State funded through his FCT ministry, and he has publicly aligned himself with Tinubu's re-election, which means he has the backing of the federal government. Fubara, on the other side, controls Government House. He controls the governorship office and everything that comes with it constitutionally. He has the support of his section of the APC structure, having defected in December 2025 and registered as APC number 001. He has received visible support from some APC governors who view the Rivers State situation as a party stability problem. But without a passed budget, he cannot execute visible projects. Without visible projects, he cannot demonstrate governance performance. Without demonstrated performance, he enters 2027 as an incumbent who has been governor for 4 years and cannot point to a clear record of delivery. That is the trap, not the impeachment, not the court cases, the budget. Because in Nigerian politics, voters are rational. They vote for people who deliver visible things, roads they can drive on, schools their children attend, hospitals that have drugs. A governor who could not deliver those things, even if the reason is political sabotage, is vulnerable to a challenger who promises to do better. Now, let us talk about what has to happen in the next few weeks for Fubara to escape this trap. The MTEF has been approved. Sources told The Nation newspaper that Fubara was ready to present the actual 2026 Appropriation Bill to the Assembly as early as the week beginning June 30, which is this week as we record this video. If the Assembly receives and passes that budget quickly, Fubara gets 6 months of legal spending authority before the year ends. 6 months is not nothing. 6 months is enough time to start visible projects, make appointments, deploy employment programs, and begin building the kind of record that helps an incumbent win a second term. If the Assembly delays, amends beyond recognition, or finds new reasons to reject or suspend the budget, Fubara governs through 2026 with no legal authority to deploy the 1.85 trillion naira that should be working for Rivers State people. And 2027 arrives with Wike's chosen candidate able to say, look at the roads, look at the hospitals, look at the schools. This is what 4 years of Fubara's governance produced. We started this video with a statement that most people think the Rivers State crisis is over. By now, you understand that it is not over. It has simply moved to a different battlefield, the battlefield of governance, budgets, and the slow, invisible war of making a governor look like he cannot deliver. The trap that was built around Fubara is elegant in its cruelty. First, you prevent him from presenting a budget. Then you accuse him of not having a budget. Then you allow him to present the framework document 9 months late while publicly embarrassing him for the delay. Then you approve it in 24 hours and wait to see what he does next. Every step makes Fubara look weak, incompetent, or both. And every step was engineered. Whether Fubara can escape this trap before 2027 depends on one thing and one thing only: whether he can get a budget passed, deploy it visibly, and build a record of delivery that Rivers State people can see and feel before they are asked to vote again. The budget presentation is coming. The Assembly will have a choice, and that choice will tell you more about the future of Rivers State than any peace deal, any court case, or any press conference has told you in 3 years. Watch what the Assembly does when that budget arrives, because the Rivers State endgame is not being decided in Abuja. It is being decided in the plenary chamber on Aba Road in Port Harcourt, and the clock is running. If this analysis helped you understand what is really happening in Rivers State, share it with one Rivers person who needs to hear it. Like this video, subscribe to Pulse Nigeria HQ, and tell me in the comments, do you think Fubara can escape this trap before 2027, or is Wike already winning? I will see you in the next one.